Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Bikes or Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And on today's episode, my guest is Holden Mars, and we talk about a little bit of everything. So no matter what you're into, there's something just for you on today's episode. We're talking tall bikes, hot rods, fixed gears, the Fort Worth Dallas scene, and the Race Across Texas 1,000 mile race that Holden has done 2 times. So we had a broad range of topics that we covered and had a great chat, and I'm really looking forward to you hearing it. I hope you like it as much as I did. But before we get to today's episode, let's take a moment to thank the people that made today's episode possible, starting with our latest batch of patrons. If you enjoy these episodes and you would like to help produce these shows, a great way to do that is through Patreon. You can find out more over at patreon.com/bikesfordeath. And this week's newest patrons are Christopher Rahili and Michelle Jensen. We also had a patron increase their pledge, so we'd like to thank Ash Warner for increasing his monthly pledge and donation to the podcast. Again, we cannot produce these episodes without your support, and we greatly appreciate all of our patrons. Now, I'd like to also welcome a new sponsor to the podcast, and this one is a big one. This one is Panorama Cycles. Maybe you haven't heard of Panorama. They've actually been around for 7 years. They're based out of Canada, and they're fans of the podcast. They reached out to me recently wondering how they could be involved with the podcast, and we wound up hitting it off. And not only are they going to be sponsors of the podcast, but me, yours truly, the new sales rep for the United States. And I should mention the only sales rep in the United States. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about this company. Their tagline is Backcountry Bicycles, and really everything that they produce is with the cycling adventurist in mind. I recently got their gravel bike, which is the Katahdin, and it's a gravel bike. It weighs, I think, 19 pounds, super light. It's so much fun to ride. And some things that really stand out about this bike are that it comes with internal dynamo routing for your dynamo hub. It's got internal routing for a dropper post, threadless bottom brackets, and super friendly geometry for longer distances. They make a lot more bikes, though. I think you should go check them out over at panoramacycles.com. And if you're wanting one in North America, they ship to North America, but we are looking to open up new accounts. There's nobody currently in the United States selling these bikes, and I intend to change that. So if you're a bike shop owner, or if you want to go into your local bike shop and put a bug in their ear, it wouldn't hurt my feelings any. One of the best things about Panorama, something that really caught my attention, they're the only certified climate neutral bike company in the world right now. Not only that, but they give 1% back to the planet, and their carbon bikes are made from recycled carbon. That's one of the things that really impressed me about this company is they might be a small company. They've only been around for 7 years, but they are truly leading the way whenever it comes to sustainable building and sustainable bikes. And as outdoors people, as adventurers, that's something I think we can really get behind. So not only are they a great company, but they're making great bikes. And I'm here to help spread the word. So again, go to panoramacycles.com, check them out. And of course, if you're interested in opening an account or hearing more about this amazing brand, you can email me at bikes@bikesfordeath.com or find my contact information on the website, bikesfordeath.com. One more note about Panorama. I'm actually going to have the owner of Panorama coming on, Simon, and we're going to be talking all things bikes, not just about Panorama bikes, but bikes in general. If you're looking to get a new bike, if you're looking to get into bike packing, adventure cycling, gravel riding, whatever it is, we're going to give you some tips, some pointers on what to look for, just as an overall rule of thumb. And of course, if you wanted to buy a Panorama, it wouldn't hurt anybody's feelings, but you don't have to. Today's episode is also brought to us by Athletic Greens. I started using them because if you've noticed, food options have become increasingly faster and less healthy. eating healthy these days can actually be kind of challenging. It can be a little bit expensive. It can be harder to find good and healthy options, and it can be harder to get the nutrients and the veggies that your body needs. So for me, I found that Athletic Greens is a great solution to help manage a healthy diet. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. I take mine every morning in about 12 ounces of cold water. And it's a great way to start the day knowing that I gave my body something really good to get the engine going. Now, to make this easy, and we want to make it easy, if you'd like to try Athletic Greens, they're going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/bikes-or-death. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/bikes-or-death to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate in daily nutritional insurance. Okay, the bills have been paid, and now it is time to get to my chat with Holden Mars. But first, let's have Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes or Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
Doing this is it's a weird thing how I feel about it, and I don't know if anyone else, people will be like, why are you doing something like crazy like that, and they're thinking like you're trying to like be better than them or something, or like they're like, man, I don't want to do that like you. I want to do that, but I'm not like you. And it's like, man, I'm just so grateful to be like out here and like be able to do anything. And like, I want everyone else to feel invited and feel welcomed, and like, that's why I built this goofy tall bike and stuff, is like to like keep myself like, keep it fun. And like, that's like super huge into cycling, and how I got into bike packing, is just like, not just getting it my own way and exploring different avenues of it,
Yeah. No, I think that's super important. And we're going to talk about all that stuff. Like I've talked about this a lot, but one of the really neat things about bike packing in particular is that we really do celebrate a variety of ways of doing it. And the podcast, we do focus a lot on bike packing, but I mean, it's bikes or death, man. It's ride your damn bike.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And ride your damn bike means anytime, any way, any reason, it's like, it doesn't, I might talk about one thing more predominantly, but it doesn't matter, man. As long as you're out there spinning the wheels and you're having a good time, it's not a competition. It's not a competition, man. We're all, I preach having a good time. Like if you're not having fun, then what are you doing? So yeah, we lead with that for sure. So yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff you do. I'd say the rat is only going to be a segment of it. So what are you drinking?
Man, I'm drinking a New Belgium Voodoo Ranger.
That sounds so good.
It's and water.
Good. I'm doing dry January. I do it every year. So I've got like, what is today? I've got like 3 days left. So I'm living vicariously through you. I actually have a Athletic Brewing non-alcoholic beer, so I can pretend, but
Hey, honestly, I wish I had a non-alcoholic beer right now, but I'm kind of need the help socially lubricate just a slight bit,
I don't blame you, man. I would love to be having a beer right now. So you got a family, or are you single guy? What's your situation?
I'm like newly in a relationship. I got like my big bike packing thing out of the year. And then I was like, okay, now I got to talk to this girl that I've been thinking about for a couple of years. And I literally was like putting it off because I'm like riding my bike so much. And like, I don't want to like, waste it. And like, really it would have been fine, but it's all like timing out really, really cool and interestingly. And, of course, I want to do that ride again next year, but
Yep. Bike
so
packing is selfish. It takes a lot of time, and not everybody can appreciate that in a relationship type setting. So it can be challenging. You got to prioritize whatever's important, and life has a tendency of working out, I think.
you just put the energy into stuff, and the universe hears that.
Yeah, I mean, you just point at where you want to go. I mean, whatever your time and attention is pointed at, that's the direction you're going, So, all right, here's your first question. Who is Monica?
Monica is the bike chick that kind of, I guess the bike group I kind of started with was Night Riders, and she had an apartment right across from them. Met up through them, and she was like, I was really into waking up and riding bikes at 3 a.m. and riding 100-mile rides, and she was like, oh man, that sounds fun, and started coercing other people to get up at dumb times to ride bikes, and so she's kind of inspired me. And then I took her back to some places I've ridden, like Caprock Canyon State Park and stuff like that, and got to relive some fun I had up there. And so she's since moved away from Texas, but she's kind of like a really big like high man cheerleader for me and what I do. And where a lot of people are like, why would you do that? She's like, that's awesome. So, and
yeah, right on.
Yeah,
we got to give her a shout out because
absolutely, yeah,
she's the reason you're here.
Okay.
I didn't know about you. No offense, but
no, fine.
she sent in a guest request through my website, and then not too long after that, Andrew Honorma sent me a text message. He's like, "Dude, you need to get Holden on the podcast."
Yeah,
and I was like, all right. So two people have like told me that I should talk to this guy, which I'm like, all right, if a couple of people tell me the same person, just like totally randomly. So I sent Andrew a text message today. I was like, and I'll do this for a lot of guests. It's like, hey, that person you recommended is coming on the show. Do you have any questions or stories you want me to ask them about or anything like that? And he's like, well, actually, my friend Monica recommended him.
Yeah.
So she's been like laying seeds, like planting seeds all over trying to get you on the show. So this episode is brought to you by Monica.
Yeah. Thanks, Monica. Shout out. Yeah. She was congratulating me on the thing, and you put a lot of effort in something, and you get over it, and you have to like start the next thing and keep going. And I'd kind of already like, and she had mentioned you, and I was like, man, that's just crazy, out of my world, but yeah, it's super cool to be here, and thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to talk to you, man. It's just fun talking bikes. So first, tell me about this. You couldn't record tomorrow because you're doing a Monday night ride. What is your Monday night ride?
The Smash Bros +1.
Okay.
We're a fixed gear syndicate in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and we primarily ride fixed gears, and we switch it up and ride gravel, but it's primarily kind of flat out here, and we'll ride 20 to 25 miles at a pretty hard pace. We've grown together and like ridden together for years, so we all kind of chase after our own little segments. But we have rotating routes. We have a Texas shape route, a panther, a squirrel, and a boot shape that we do by what week of the month it is.
Oh, sweet. How many people do y'all got in that group?
Man, so minimum, like tomorrow will be kind of chilly. Like there'll be like 12 minimum. But the group chat, I mean, I'm sure there's like 40 of us that I'd consider family, and and we're just a motley crew of people for sure.
Yeah, that's sick, man. One cool thing about you that I was like noticing, and when I was preparing for this episode, is you do a lot of you do a lot of different genres of cycling, for lack of a better word, you know. And so fixed gear, tall bike, endurance, gravel. I mean, you know, you're
Thank
running
you.
the plethora of like of all the rad things. So I mean, that's cool, man. I think
Yeah.
like you can get a little bored and stale if you approach anything in life just like one way. I actually used to live in Fort Worth. I lived in like the Fort Worth, Dallas area for like 3 years back in my druggy days, and so I don't remember a lot of it, but I wasn't into cycling back then. So tell me a little bit about like the cycling scene in Fort Worth. I've actually never talked to anybody, I think, from Fort Worth that's like in the scene. So what's it like there, man?
Man, I would say it's kind of low key, but it's like super tight knit. And we have kind of people that come over from Dallas, and then we'll go over to Dallas a lot. But over here, like Monday is like mandatory, and then Tuesday there's guaranteed a taco ride, you know. And we all kind of locate around this same train station where a lot of these rides kind of start. And then, you know, usually we'll ride like, so basically every night out of the week someone's doing something, and a lot of us, you know, live within like an hour and a half ride, you know, to downtown. But I think like it's when you like, you know, you ride together and you grow together and you really build like a really tight friendship. And like for me, uh commuting a lot, like I kind of skirt past downtown going to work, and then it like opens me up for opportunities at the end of the day to, you know, goof off on bikes and stuff. And you know, you got to climb a hill to get into downtown, like from
Oh,
anywhere
yeah.
off the bike trail. It's like follows the river, you know, so there's these rolling hills out here. But
What about the bike infrastructure? Like, where are you typically riding? Are you riding like, I mean, I watched some of your videos. It looks like you're on paved paths, you're on like downtown streets. Like, yeah, what's it like?
yeah, so like day to day, you know, I'll take the long way and take the bike path to not stop and, you know, I guess be the lesser of two evils and be the bad guy on the bike path instead of being the, you know, the little guy on the streets. But, you know, just to take the longer way. But I'm not scared of riding in the road at all. And I ride in the road a lot. And, you know,
When you
our
say
routes are,
bad guy on the bike, do you mean like you're like the big fish in the sea kind of, or do you mean like the trail users consider you or perceive you to be a bad guy?
yeah, you know, like, and, you know, I try to be self aware of like who I am. You know, I ride by, you know, I just am like a 13-year-old kid, really, you know, and like I'm like getting places, you know, and you know, sometimes I feel like I'm too slow for the road, you know, to belong, and I'm too fast for the path. But I'm very conscientious, and I like try to make contact with people, like wave at everyone, and you know, call out is like a really big deal. Like in Fort Worth, you know, like we're definitely like people that say howdy when we ride by,
Yeah.
and like, you know, look at each other in the face.
When they do y'all do that to other cyclists, or do you do it to like other trail users?
Yeah, man. You know, especially like, you know, I like to ride like early in the morning, and it ends up riding home, you know, super late at dark. And yeah, it's just like it's that kind of shared space because so, you know, the roads, the city's like it's like a big town vibe. So you can ride a lot on the roads because they're not overly congested. Like the you know, eastern and northeastern areas of the Metroplex are kind of a little more filled out, where the, you know, western side of the Metroplex is kind of, you know, it's super big, you know, but so that lets us kind of ride everywhere. I think I skipped your question to answer an older question just then, but
I don't care. We're just talking. No pressure. Tell me about fixed gear. How long you've been riding fixed gear? And I got to be honest, it's something like out of all the bikes, out of all the modalities of riding, fixed gear is the one that interests me the least. Like I like coasting, right? Like I like my
Right.
brakes, and no shade. I'm just curious, like what you like about it.
Yeah, man. Like a big thing, for me is cycling isn't my only thing, but it's like old cars too. And like, there's something like an old car and like, feeling how much power the little engine can have. And like, you let off the clutch and you feel the whole thing kind of pull you to a stop and and it's that push and pull. But, I was a sucker at the whole 2017 era when I really kind of started cycling. It was like working out was fun and all, but it's like wasting time. Getting ready to go somewhere to do a thing, to come home, to shower, to go to work. When I was like, man, I could just ride my bike to work. And then I was like having to work a second shift job, so I was getting to ride in like the best part of the day, and like just watching a bunch of YouTube videos and saw some people at the other, Night Riders, the social ride in Fort Worth on Sundays, and knew they had a group that ride and got into that. And and really I should back up, because it all started because I got a motorized bicycle that was on a beach cruiser and burnt up the brake, and bought a Walmart fixie and put it on that, and had to pedal it to like 20 miles an hour to even get the motor to work, because I was using the fixed cog on the fixie that just came with it and pedaling on the coaster. And I rode 3 miles and I couldn't do it, and it was like blew me up, and I was like, man, I want to get good at this. But that
You
kind of
couldn't
started
do it
that.
on that. You couldn't do that on the motorized bike.
Well, so I tried to ride. Yeah, so to riding the bike by itself, like without the motor, I couldn't ride it 3 miles.
Oh,
You
okay,
know,
okay,
but
yeah.
I kind of jumped back there. But whenever I started with a hybrid and was going to get a next bike, the end all be all bike, and I bought a fixed gear right before my gravel bike, and then I was really going through a quarter life crisis at 25, with way too much stability going on. And I kind of bought the gravel bike and the fixed gear like right by each other, and I still have both of them and have definitely got plenty of use. But man, there's a lot of rolling hills out here too, and a lot of ways to carry momentum. And especially on the bike path is very flat. So you can really cruise and maintain speed. And it's very simple. It's everything you need and nothing you don't. And that's probably, the main reason.
Yeah.
And
I like your tie-in with the cars, and being more like engaged with. I get it with single speed. I mean, I got converted to single speed, not totally. I have geared bikes and single speed bikes, and at first I didn't understand single speed, right? Because it's like, man, we got all these gears, we got all this technology. Like, why not take advantage of it? But single speed lets you
yeah,
be more present, more engaged with what you're doing. I do. Let's take a moment to talk about cars. Never talked about cars with anyone on the podcast ever, but I think yours are worth talking about. I don't even know where to start, but your social media is just full of like dope ass rides. Tell me about your cars, man.
oh, thanks so much. I mean, just a lot of stuff about me. There's never really, growing up, there's a lot of you could do anything you wanted to, and no one really telling me, oh, this is how you should do this or that, and I kind of, started with a bug, and blew up the motor pretty quick, and, learned and met this guy that had this other car and ended up buying that car from him. And, man, I don't even know where to begin on, but basically since I was 17 and I'm 30 now,
Yeah.
about to be. So it's a short amount of time, but I'm just like, when I dive into a hobby, man, I just go into it like crazy. So my primary means of transportation has been antique vehicles, and kind of started with air cooled Volkswagens and built an American, fuel injected, car. And then, I inherited a car from my grandfather, and that kind of changed some stuff for perspective about how many cars do I want to maintain and why do I have what in my life. And, there's some cycling events that were really important to me, and like helping fund that, I actually sold, a couple of hot rods, and like it made me ride my bike all summer and made me super strong. But also like that other mentality of like, you're going where you're going with a bag of tools, not hoping that they're for someone else that you see broken down, not
Mhm.
yours. And also you're like, we're going on this is more of a journey, and like you're going to be in the way and people are going to let you, you're like, you're taking the path less traveled. And I've always kind of done things the harder way despite like what looks easy, I guess. And
Yeah.
I've been kind of stubborn like that. And so, and then now I ride bikes, I can justify old cars even more. And 2020 put a lot of stuff in perspective of like what I really wanted to do with my time riding across Texas for the first time at the end of 2019. And like, so I've been working on cars for a living. I work at a shop in North Fort Worth, and
Okay.
I work on hot rods full time. And even for me, I'm amazingly humbled and feel like I have tremendous amounts to learn and grow. And that segues into bicycles too, because I want to be able to customize bikes and turn old bikes into fixed gears and build crazy kooky tall bikes and
Yeah.
expose cycling to the world. And I'm just so fascinated with transportation in general.
Yeah, I mean, typically I don't talk a lot about cars. I'm more of the fuck cars variety, but I mean, I have a car. Obviously, I mean,
Yeah,
you almost have in the world that we live in and the infrastructure that has been built for us. Like, you almost have to have a car in most places.
absolutely.
Uh, so let's talk about for fun. Let's talk about your VW. What is that truck? I don't even know what
Yeah,
that thing is, man. What is it?
you call it a single cab.
Okay.
It's a single cab truck. Yeah, and it's just super utilitarian. I mean, the Volkswagen made them. They're kind of like rare. They had a big import tax on import trucks for the longest time. To help keep those big American companies that can't fail.
Yeah.
But it's all for reasons. But
What year is it?
that's a 1963, and I've definitely like traded up for it.
What do you mean?
Like, so I had a car that's called a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia for about 10 years and built on it and made it kind of crazy. And it was time to like really address some of the structural integrity parts of the body and stuff, or just enjoy it for what it was. And there's so many cars to own, and I've learned like so much. And there's just, like you say, there's so many different flavors in life of, things to do. And so I was like, I could really turn this into something else. And you know, you reach a point where we don't own really anything. We just kind of get to enjoy it and be stewards of it. And you hope this stuff lives on, beyond you. And I think once you have your fun with something, I don't have any problems with letting someone else, enjoy it and start their own beginning. And I chose to do that. So the bus is I still call it a bus because it's all the same parts, but it's a relatively new acquisition. I got it in June, and had to change all the suspension in it, and I blew up the motor. And November, during a parade, over revving my
Oh,
engine
oh
for little
no.
kids. And I had this junk motor laying in the corner of the garage, and I got it running. So I'm like tooling around in it and blew some motor mounts in on it Friday night and was working on it all day Saturday to change some engine mounts, and was fixing some um, previous owners torched out frame rail work going on, patch the frame rail and stuff, and put the engine back in. But
That's
it
rad.
definitely it keeps it fresh, to switch it up for me because while I'm doing one thing, I'm definitely thinking about the other. You
Are
know,
you a traditionalist whenever it comes to like your builds? Because I mean, you can throw in like fuel injected, you can throw in modern suspension. Like, is yours one of those sleepers where like it looks kind of like a beater on the outside, but it'll tear you up, or what?
I'm definitely like endurance. Like I'm more endurance oriented. So, a lot of, or, I like a lot of looks of the traditional customs, where it'd be, a really catching look and stylish, but, not really it's always cost me more money to go fast and break stuff. And I always get into more trouble, so I really, because my mindset is I want to build it to last. and like when I'm driving and my engine's like struggling to get up a hill, because now I got this small engine in this bus, but you're going into a corner and you're trying to carry all your speed you can, so you don't have to pick up speed again. It's just like riding a bike and you're just used to being in the way already, and you just wave at everybody. And now, it's fun because sometimes you feel as a cyclist in the road or whatever in the urban setting, you're like a nuisance or, you're not. But when you're on a tall bike or, doing something else sometimes, you're like, you're heightening everyone's day, so.
Yeah, people are getting a kick out of it. Like you might be in their way, but at least they get to see a cool car while they're stuck behind you.
Yeah, it definitely helps for getting in, changing lanes. People will let you in when you have a old
That's
car,
cool.
for sure.
We'll have to. I'm gonna have to post a lot of pictures on this episode. I want to include some pictures of some of your bikes and some of your cars and stuff for fun. I used to be into hot rodding and like street racing and all that kind of stuff. I had 2 Fox body Mustangs, a '68 Mustang, and I think that was it. And then I got into motorcycles, and I was a freaking idiot on motorcycles. And when I had my first daughter, my wife and I at the time, I owned a motorcycle business. Like I was into motorcycles, and had a kid, and both of our motorcycles just sat there in the driveway. Like we just didn't touch them. Like not.
Did you ever do any bike packing with your motorcycle?
Nah.
I did.
I wish, man. Like that's my progression in life. I think is going to be, geared or single speed bikes, like human powered. Then I'll eventually, when I'm old as fuck, I'll get a e-bike. And then when I'm really old as fuck, I want an enduro. And my dream is that I'll die in the desert on some enduro moto trip, hopefully in Big Bend, And that was inspired. I was actually on a bikepacking trip in Big Bend, and there was an enduro biker out there, a solo dude. He's probably like late 70s, 80s. And he's just out there, man, having the time of his life. I was like, yeah, that's who I want to be when I'm 80 years old. Ideally, it'd be good if my legs were still working. I was still riding my bike. So we'll see how it goes. But I definitely have an affinity for that. But I don't know, man. Ever since like I have 2 daughters, and I just knew too many people who were dying or losing limbs and I just was like, man, I just can't do it, for me. But I mean, obviously, but then like cyclists are getting fucking run over. So I don't know.
Yeah. For me, my mindset, if it's a nice enough day to ride, might as well get the exercise for me too. And ride the bicycle. And you avoid way more traffic lights, riding the bike path when, but for me, I'm lucky. It's like a 40-minute commute going my pace. Yeah. So, it's 15 minutes to the bike trail, and then it's just Cadillacing.
That's awesome, man. So let's talk about you told me I think it was your first bikepacking trip was 70 miles one way on I'm guessing this is like your motorized commuter bike or something. Like, what was that?
Yeah. No, it was like just a entry level hybrid.
Okay.
So, this was the beginning of the bikes going on, and it was an obsession. I quickly collected, different varieties of bikes. But yeah, and I'd, saw night riders on Facebook events to do, and saw other people doing other stuff. And I'd gone camping before with a Volkswagen thing, going to car show campouts. And I was like, oh, I could do this, and just carrying all the wrong stuff, panniers and a bunch of like 2-lane highway, chip seal country roads, and, get to the state park. And then like, you want to ride all these mountain bike trails. And I'm like trying to like not blow a wheel out or nothing. And I definitely got the cogs turning. And like, the guy I brought with me, poor guy, like didn't make it, almost didn't make it, wanted me to leave him, and his girlfriend like came and picked him up as soon as we made it to the state park. But I had another friend that met me out there on a mountain bike just to like camp. And I was like just itching, and, then quickly bought a gravel bike. And they used to host a Fort Worth bike friendly camp out that was just along the bike trail at the lake in Benbrook, and that was probably the real true first one. But it was real entry level, and I was like, man, I really want to do something crazy fun. And I don't know, once you do one, you're like, oh, I could do that bigger.
Yeah. So was that that one at Pembroke? Was that your introduction to bike packing?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was the first one. But yeah, full size sleeping bag and like blow up chair, and just probably had a full size skillet, something, just goofy, unnecessary stuff. Where now less is more.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, less you got to carry. Where was the when you did that 70 miler? Where did you camp? What state park did you go to?
Dinosaur Valley.
Oh, cool.
And, yeah.
Glen Rose.
Yes, sir. And that county's pretty, riding through.
I saw you did. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Dinosaur Valley and Glen Rose area is epic. I saw you did some riding out at Lake Mineral Wells too. Can you ride all the way from Fort Worth to Dinosaur Valley and to Lake Mineral Wells?
I would say Mineral Wells is way more accessible. You can literally just follow the service road for 90% of the way. And you can ride to Dinosaur Valley, but I kind of contacted some friends, and they kind of put me through I got to go through like a gated community to go to Dinosaur Valley, pecan plantation, and where there's a lot of these are a lot of sparse ranch roads that now these outskirts areas are being kind of developed, and now these like fast moving 2-lane highways are kind of getting built up. So I haven't made it back to Dinosaur Valley in particular since, but and it's funny because it's too close in my mind, because I really I like to plan like something really epic, and be not sure if I'm gonna make it or not.
Yeah, you got to keep pushing yourself. I wanted to ask you. I did a kid packing trip out at Lake Mineral Wells. Took the daughters out there, and along the path, one of the bridges was closed. I think I saw a video where y'all did the same thing I did and hopped the barrier and went on it anyway, and we did too. I mean, I was on my phone, like Googling, trying to figure out what I was doing. I'm like, well, sorry. I mean, here we are, we're going. So we did it. But I was wondering if you knew if they fixed the bridge or if they're ever going to open it back up again. Like, do you know anything about that since you're a little closer?
No, it's not fixed. We were there just a couple weeks ago, actually. But so when the water isn't there, you can basically cross it down and go up. But no, that's just the fun of it. That means you're almost there. You have to. I guess you came from Mineral Wells to the state park.
Yeah, from Mineral Wells trailhead. So we drove out there. I don't remember how many miles it was. It's not very many, but yeah, again, I had at that time a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old. So. That was their.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think that was their third bikepacking trip.
Yeah.
So I just interviewed a 13-year-old girl who did the Tour Divide with her dad in 42 days, and we've been talking about doing a trip with them. And so I got my tandem right there. My daughter's listening to that episode, and I'm trying to get her hyped up because I want to do the 240-mile Katy Trail with my daughter. Because the cool thing is like that dad is 43. I turned 43 in like 5 days. And his daughter's 14 now, and my daughter's 13. So like almost the same age. And so I'm trying to
awesome.
Plant some seeds and stuff. But man, Mineral Wells is like, yeah, it's pretty, like that trail system is pretty epic. I wish that they like kind of maintained it a little bit better. I know it just comes down to money. They don't have the money to do anything, but it would be sick if they did.
And we expect to see a lot more of the rails to trails type stuff going on in like Fort Worth especially, and it'll only get popular. But I do know that bridge being out is kind of more of a recent development, like within like the last like 8 months or so. Or so you were there recently, I think.
Yeah. Just yeah, within the last 8 months, I want to say it was like, yeah, close right at 8 months. It's probably like June or July. I think I went right before they closed it because I called up to the park
Yeah.
office and I told them what we were doing. I'm taking my kids, so I'm trying to do all the beta. And I called the park office. I was like, here's our plan. Didn't mention anything about it. I didn't see it on their website as a park notice. And then we went and came across. And then whenever we got home, there was an alert on the state park website that the bridge was closed. So I think it happened like right before we got there.
Wow.
Yeah. Tell me, so what do you know about the rails to trails? That's super exciting. Do you know what they got in the works or anything?
Well, I know like the Trinity River is kind of like it has a couple different forks, and they're connecting Dallas to Fort Worth via trails, and also there's kind of two main forks that go west and kind of towards where I live, but there's an old rail line that used to go to a bomber plant where they the Air Force was, and so it's just been super vacant. There's like a big bridge that goes over the highway and everything. And so they'll be building our little rails to trails there. Nothing like super epic, but
Hey, more trails,
just to
man.
make it more accessible, and be other ways to get around besides like being stuck with a gas burning engine or electric car. The stuff that they necessarily sell you isn't necessarily like as fun as riding your bike, I promise.
Oh, hell no. Yeah, and my experience is I live in College Station. I don't know how familiar you are with it. It's a college town, but it's surprising with 100,000 students the lack of infrastructure. Like it's I mean, it's just terrible. I could do a whole podcast about how shitty our infrastructure is, but what I've experienced when I go to other areas that have good infrastructure is if you build it, people will use it. Has that been like your experience in the Dallas Fort Worth area?
Yeah, it's such a sprawling area. So, I see a lot of stuff being redeveloped, reused, like on the edges of downtown and stuff like that, which those are getting a lot of bike paths, and people are saying no one's going to ride their bike on XYZ street, and we are, and there's definitely like, groups of us that go out frequently. So I think, they have some of that stuff in mind. Some of that stuff is a little goofy, like super urban. They've been putting medians kind of in between bike lanes where there's a lot of shopping, and, there's not designated full stop signs for the cars to see the cyclists, but, we're kind of riding in bigger groups, staying in the street.
Yeah, that helps. Let's talk about your tall bike.
Yeah, man.
I got some questions, but first off, yeah, there she is. What a beauty. What is it? And I was going to ask you if you built it, but I figured out from stalking your Instagram that you did build it, and you're a car guy, you're a mechanic, you know how to manufacture stuff. So yeah, tell me what you got there.
Yeah, well, before I like started biking, I bought like one at a flea market, and the other one said Volkscycle on it. And so it was like there's like 70s road bikes, and there's a floor jack handle welded between them. But, I tried to do it nice instead of like a weekend job. And so it's two bikes stacked together, and where the top bike touches the seat post of the other bike, it's welded, and then the old dropouts and stuff are all, capped off and welded smooth. And yeah, man, someone gave me some like exercise bike handlebars, I think, for it. And I sourced a full 3x8 group set for it. I got it at a bike swap. Bike store had these takeoff parts that for whatever reason they couldn't sell them, but they could give them to somebody. So, and I brazed on all the little cable holders everywhere necessary, and and put 20 water bottle bosses all over it. And my boss is like, "You're gonna make it nice, right? You're gonna make it nice." And so when I got done with the race across Texas this year, this was like what I had to finish, and got it powder coated, and it's now the nicest bicycle I've ever owned, and it shifts better than all my bikes actually. And just the super simple, well, I say that, but it's not. But
Yeah.
as far as the mountain cheap, mountain bike shifters go.
Dude, the handlebars are where it's at. Those exercise handlebars are money. Yeah, let's see those. Yeah, we'll put some pictures on the website because people
Cool.
got to see what you got going on. She's pretty. That's so
Thank
cool.
you.
How did you did you follow a blueprint, or how did you go about actually just building it? Did you just start putting pieces together and see what worked? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think so. What happened is my buddy had a Shirley Cross Trek, and he cut his steer tube too short, or his fork too short, and so that was junk. And I'd been like talking about this, I start talking about something and no one tells me not to, and then I do it. But well, even when people tell me not to, I probably still do. And so I drilled it out for a piece of 1-inch tubing and brazed a piece of 1-inch tubing in the bottom of it. And well, I used brazing silicon bronze rod, but I TIG welded it together and tack welded the bearing race to the bottom of there just to keep it put. And so I just had this super long steerer, and then kind of mocked up where I thought these bikes would kind of fit together, and tightened them up with this jack handle in between. And basically I have like a gate hinge that's out of two bicycles, and was kind of just looking where the backs would line up and welding them up there. And at first it was a single speed, and where the seat post from the top bike to the bottom bike meet is where I kind of stretched the bikes apart to tighten the chain. But
Okay.
but now it's just a one to a chain running to the top bike, kind of like a tandem, and I have a derailleur as a chain guard, and then the it's just like a normal 3x8 group set on the bottom bike.
Did you follow any kind of guide, or did you literally just build it out of your head?
Yeah, I would say mine's kind of unique. They're all unique. They're all like, I was so inspired. If you go into the dive of tall bikes, they're all so very unique. And there's definitely like some really great ways to make some bike packing oriented bikes. And I'm very reluctant that this one doesn't have cargo capabilities. Like, I want to build other ones too, because you could really get a lot of bike packing gear on a tall bike.
Yeah.
And
well, typically you do it down low for center
correct.
of gravity, right?
Yeah. So this one's not ideal for that. Yeah. And that's the thing, it gets people talking. But no, I didn't follow a plan. I saw a lot of what not to do. But once I got the long steer tube, and I tightened the two bikes together, and where basically both head tubes were straight with each other, and then I knew where the back needed to meet up. And then it was just like putting a normal bike together. And, I've been cautious of building one bike. And so I built two bikes in one with the drivetrain components of three bikes.
Nice.
But I'm super, super happy with it, super satisfied, and it gets to be in my bedroom. It's that nice.
That's it. I got 5. Well, this is in my bedroom, but I got 5 bikes surrounding me right now. So yeah,
nice.
You're in good company. You're the first person I ever talked to there's a lot of firsts on this episode, actually. Haven't ever talked to anybody who's done the rat. Haven't talked to anybody about a tall bike. We've never talked about cars before. So a lot of first. How do you get on a tall bike, and how do you get off of a tall bike?
Right. I think that raises a bigger question, is how do guys get in lifted trucks without steps? Because that's what I think getting on my tall bike. And that's what I tell people. I'd like there to remain some little bit of magic there. And, I can't get off, it's always play with that. But I have a little peg that would be where like a rack mount would be. And you basically step on the peg with one leg and step on the power stroke of the pedal with your other foot, and put the power in and swing your other leg around You can kind of lean over it a little bit, and but if it starts falling away from you or something, it's definitely a bad time. They're really hard to track stand, and that's kind of frustrating to me because that'd be like a preferred way to stay still. But it's really not too bad. It's just a normal bicycle, and there's just something about floating 6 feet in the air around the city, and like looking down on all your friends. It's like drone view, and
Well, like whenever you get on it, are you like do you have to like kind of get a running start?
You step off, but no, I mean, I could probably stand on it right now. I don't know if you can see me, but you
I can see.
One foot there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So as soon as you put your foot on the pedal, it pushes you off.
Yeah.
And you hold your saddle and you place that right underneath you. Just whoop.
How many times did you eat shit trying to learn how to get on it?
The first couple were pretty bad because if it falls the way you're not prepared, it's kind of easy to get a leg stuck in it or something. But you learn pretty quick. I really wish I didn't have a peg. I really wish I just pushed off and reached my legs super high and was able to tough guy it up there. I think that'd be like, or climb the bike itself.
Yeah.
I think that would be like the real hardcore, because in true of like taking things too far fashion, what can I do that's more special than a fixed gear? Oh, I'll ride a tall bike, because no one's cooler than those guys at the meetup on the penny farthings, riding super high up in the air. That's what I'm gonna get next, right?
Yeah, I own the domain name penny farthing or death. Yeah, I have the email address too. I don't own a penny farthing, but I definitely want one. All right, so here's the tall bike question of the century that I think everybody wants to know. You're riding. I've seen you go on these group rides with your tall bike. You're in traffic. You come to a stoplight. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you navigate that?
Well, you have a couple of options. I guess I'll list them in my personal choice of options that I will take. And like, I'll do this to say is riding a tall bike is secretly the ultimate training tool. I mean, your sense of awareness and, you're putting out power to just ride in a group ride. And, but it's also absorbs all the bumps, but, being all the tubes and stuff to get up there. But so basically I start doing circles. So I go to the crosswalk and either hang a left or a right, and I'm already looking back. So you just kind of have to glance down and you can see behind you, and so I'll start doing circles, but also I've got it worked out. I've got a, steady group of buddies at the social ride, and they got plenty of shoulders to lean on. And so you become very aware. So all these little pylon poles that you see that are like to stop cars from driving in, those are great foot stops.
Yeah.
Stop signs, not so much because they're usually like inset from the curb. But you can see around traffic too. If cars are parked at a corner, you can kind of see if the light clear. I don't run red lights. I just catch a lot of green ones. So and you get better at timing that, and then you kind of it's really fun. The Smash Bros will be like a force field of bikes ahead and beside and behind me, and kind of like directing traffic as we roll through the city as like a parade.
What about do you ever ride it just on your own around town, or do you prefer, for all those reasons you just listed, to kind of ride in a group?
Yeah, I built it for that. The only time I ride it alone is riding it to work, and that's just to goof off and do that. And I feel like the tall bike loses all of its magic if it's not seen. I feel like it's 3 times harder to ride if no one sees me. And it's like I definitely like have an attention issue or something, being like this. But
your mommy didn't hug you enough when you were a kid.
Yeah, I got other bikes to just ride around on, and really, I don't do a lot of like small rides other than commuting. For me to put on some clothes to ride my bike, I uh, really want to kind of push myself and do 100 miles or more.
Yeah. Well, let's ask you that question. So it's the weekend. You're gonna plan a ride. What kind of ride do you typically plan for yourself?
Yeah, man, it's usually like a real big like out and back, is what I like to usually like push 50, 60 miles like one way east or west to Mineral Wells and go the gravel ride or go east to Dallas and go the roadway, and you just take these old school highways people used to take before the freeway was there. But yeah, and I like building like a really good base for me. Cycling is like a really big social thing, but like I really enjoy riding by myself and like occupying my own time, and like just kind of like growing up, I had to occupy my own time a lot, and I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to ride my bike and go get lost. And I really feel like I realized if I was going to have anything, this like takes a tremendous amount of work. And I just like get super focused and lost in my own like niche, and like it's just like you just get stuck out way far somewhere, and you just like have to rely on yourself to get back. And like that's just such a fun of adventure, because everything that like you thought was an issue like doesn't matter now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love just adventuring by bike and getting lost, and a lot of times that's one bummer about like where I live is I've lived here for 42 years, about to be 43 years, and I know it like the back. Like I've told friends, people I've dated, it's like you could blindfold me and drive 30 minutes in any direction and drop me off, and I'm going to know exactly how to get back without any technology or whatever. Like there's nowhere I can go that isn't familiar to me. How far do you have to go to get to gravel from your house?
We got that nice kitty litter gravel that's 4 miles away.
On
Um,
like on trails, like dedicated
yeah,
trails? Okay, cool.
yeah, that's pretty close. But to get to real nice gravel, uh, like I rode to a cycling event in Valley View for a 75-mile race up there, and that's some proper gravel. I would say it's a little further out there. You know, um, there's patches, and like a lot of people would say the Dallas levee system is a chunkier, less maintained gravel system with some punchy climbs over some levees and stuff like that. But it's not it's not like doing the rat where it's as far as you can go one way, and it's all dirt the whole way. And it's definitely like a kind of riding that I don't ever get to do any other time.
Yeah. Well, I think you're looking at my notes. That's next on my list. Let's talk about the Rat. So, for people who don't know, the Rat is the race across Texas, the Rat 1000. It's 1,000 miles. I don't even know. It starts, does it start in Texarkana?
Correct.
Yeah, Texarkana, which is the very northern eastern point of Texas. And what's the terminus? Somewhere, is it actually New
Tucumcari.
Mexico? Tucumcari, New
Tucumcari, New Mexico.
Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because
Uh,
there's nothing else there.
Yeah, it is out there. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. I haven't done that one. Haven't talked to anybody who's done it on the podcast before. So, first question is like, what even put that on your radar, and what made you want to do it?
Well, so got the gravel bike, and it was like spring, and all these kind of t-shirt event rides were going on. And, I definitely was searching Facebook events for bike rides and stuff like that. And there's this group out of Texas, Kevin Lee with Ministry, that holds a bunch of series of gravel events and stuff like that. And they had this Paris event in Paris, Texas. And that's kind of the first main stop on the race across Texas. And so just got a gravel bike, and I'm out there doing this thing, and I get lost like the first 15 miles in, and I meet some other people and start talking to them. Shout out Jerry Bueno. But and they're
That's
like,
a
"Are you
cool
gonna
name.
do?"
That's his
Yeah,
real name, Jerry Bueno.
Jerry Bueno, Austin, Texas. Super cool guy, super motivating and inspiring. Just laid back and ambassador for the sport. Just a new guy like me getting lost out there. Teaming up and sticking together and really, really formed a love for gravel riding like that day, and stuck with these group of people I met up with, and they were like, "Are you going to do the rat? Are you training for the rat?" And I'm like, never heard of any of this, but I'm like, man, I just got this bike and I'm just like building this momentum. And I'm like, man, that'd be like a perfect thing. And, already like camping and stuff. And, I like accessorizing, cars or bicycles, already, so let's like see how much stuff we can put on it and where we can go with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's a puzzle, man. It's fun.
Yeah, and so the next year I tried to meet out with those guys in Paris. I tried to ride from Dallas Fort Worth to Paris to meet the racers on the first night, and I didn't make it. And I stopped was like 15 miles short, and like I camped literally on route of the rat, and I was terrified. I was sleeping next to like someone's like trash trailer, and like just mosquitoes everywhere, getting in my tent bivy all sweaty. Well, it was a very small tent, but but I got to meet some people like that next morning who were who like I consider myself very fortunate and young, kind of capable, and some of my friends who are kind of older, and that I was like, I can't believe you're going to try to do this, and that really inspired me. But like I had kind of like a really big like failure leading up to being inspired by it in bike packing, and it really like inspired me to like do it better and like learn from my mistakes.
Yeah. Let's talk about your mistakes. What was your failure? I love hearing failure. No, I mean, really, because I've said this a million times, but failures are only an opportunity to learn,
Yeah.
and obviously that's kind of where it ultimately landed for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was like time management, and I got going. I was doing like the miniature rat,
Okay.
because Kevin's great
Was this
about
the 20? Was this the 2019 one?
No, this was the year before that. No, 2 years
20.
before that, probably. It's easy for me to get it mixed up, but
That's all right.
but it was the year before I actually did the rat. So so
Okay.
it had to have been 2018.
Yeah.
It feels a million years ago, but no, I want to say it was no, that was it, because that was the year there was a lot of rain, so that there'd be built some steam up to the event, and then like there might be some rain and a lot of people will drop out, and I feel like maybe the next year not a lot of people will come. And once I put it in my mind that it was something I was working towards, I was going to go out there and do it, or hope to do it no matter what, if I could, and so anyway, I guess leading up to 2019, I kind of, well, I guess, mistakes were just all beginner mistakes, really. I mean, didn't have bug spray was probably like the biggest one. Didn't have charging capability, that I thought I did, was like, I've never had a failure before where lost battery to the Garmin and the phone. And then your headlights dying, and you see the thunderstorm cloud, and the store closes at 7:30 p.m. in Roxton. Tips for rat riders, but but yeah.
How many miles is so Kevin? Yeah, Kevin with Spinistry. I know he does like the mini rat. He does the full rat. He does. He even does like stage. You can do it in a stage event if you want to. So that there are a lot of options and ways you could approach this route. So what was the mini rat that year? How many miles was that?
The mini rat's whatever you want it to be, but I think I did like about 150 miles, 160, and they're just different options to basically, it was from Farmersville. It was the start of the net, another rails to trails, to
Northeast Texas Trail.
correct.
Northeast Texas Trail. That's what it is. The net. Yeah. Just for
Yeah.
people listening. Yeah.
And some of that was a little more impassable than I anticipated. And I also I went 8 miles the wrong way. And because the part of the route figure eighted back on itself, and I started going back up the return leg, and my Garmin beeped at me so much. And I was like, this is fine. I'm having so much fun riding my bike. When I finally did turn around, I didn't have the battery left, and was like, stuff got wet, and great time.
All right. So you bailed that year. What happened in 2019? One thing, I don't know if I Googled forever to try to find the results because I wanted to kind of see your I don't know where they're listed, if they're listed anywhere, but I have no idea what happened. So yeah, what happened in your 2019 attempt?
Yeah, and that's the kind of magic of the rat, is it's, I guess, that grassroots. But 2019 was like great. It was, I was just terrified. I knew I could ride my bike 150 miles from Texarkana to Paris one day. I knew I could do that. And I was pretty sure I could do that 2 days. But beyond that, I didn't really plan that. So I was doing the independent time trial, which can be done at any time during the year, west to east, east to west. Traditionally, there's a group departure first, second week in October in Texarkana. And, people kind of watch this. We all carry spot trackers is kind of how it's cataloged. But, made it to Paris, first one to Paris. And they were doing the stage race, and the stage race starts 30 miles less that first night. And I'd meet up with one of those guys and was pushing a pace that was unmaintainable for me then. But I think I was on par, not faster, with that pace this year. But and I got to Paris, and Kevin was like, "You're not going further, are you?" And Kevin is really great at letting people ride their own ride and not spoiling it for them, but also like kind of like, hey man, it's not a good idea for most people to go past this point on the first night and I reluctantly stayed and got to hang out with the old heads, in the Paris campgrounds and hear their stories and see these guys. And, I started later that next day, but, and this guy started going past me, and, I was doing good, the first couple of days, and then hit a wall of day 3, basically doing 150 miles the first couple of days and running into elevation past Oklahoma, moving west. And, cause you basically run through the north of Texas. And, and I only made it like 100 miles the third day. And, I got to this hotel at like 3 p.m. and I'm like, man, and I'm like sitting in this, hot tub that's not even hot at the Holiday Inn, and I'm watching this guy go by me, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna wake up at 2 a.m. and go get him. And I did, and I did 60 miles before 7 a.m. or something. Nice. And rode all day to catch this guy, Keith Jordan, who we kind of started this yo-yo thing, and I was totally written off. There was Facebook people doing commentaries on the ride, writing me off. And I'm like, man, I'm in this. And chase this.
So you were seeing
down.
The commentary while you were on the ride?
Yeah, via Facebook comments and stuff. Yeah. And, which was fun and really pushed me. And it took me all of 16 hours that day to catch him. And he's pounding Red Bulls and his knees all swollen. And he's like, what are you doing, man? How far are you going? And I was like, man, I'm feeling great today. I was like, I'm going to just get a tall boy and ride until the sun starts to set and just find a place. And he was like, man, I'm not racing you. He's like, you can have this. And, for me, he breaks the 1,000-mile ride into 7 maps. So I was trying to do a map a day, and I'd gotten behind that one day, but then basically caught back up and ended up camping out that night. And I didn't really clean myself down really well. And I also didn't consider, like, I camped out right after my resupply and didn't consider how much I had to ride the next morning to the next resupply. And it was like 50 miles, of like, yeah. And I was grateful for some back pocket cheeseburgers that morning. I tried that again this year, and it was just disgusting to eat a cheeseburger out of my back pocket. But I guess I was at a different spot in
If you're
2019.
hungry
And
enough.
yeah, so it was a really, really fast year, and Dana Birch set the record, the fastest known time. He did in retrospect, he did 263 miles, I believe, the first day. And he said he didn't bring proper gear for the cold to camp in, so he was kind of scared to stop.
Oh, I gotcha.
And then he did approximately about 150 miles the rest of the days, and he did it in 6 days, 12 hours in 2019. No, he did it in 5 days, 12 hours. And I did it in 2019 in 6 days, 18 hours. And then there's another gentleman in front of me, and I forget his name or his time, but he got the fastest known single speed time. And it just worked out that there wasn't any rain that year. And then the next year, 2020 was 2020, and it was a smaller year, and there was some rain, but like, this is something I literally think about every day, and is like just a big core of like why I get up and like want to ride a little further or plan something a little bigger, is to like get to do that.
What is it about this particular race or the route that gets you so fired up? Is it just like you got to get that monkey off your back, or what's going on there?
I think, one of the big reasons I like it is, it's when I kind of got into cycling, I was just like super easily influenced to this. And then it's time frame of me trying to fit the biggest adventure possible into a week. And now, and I wanted to go back this last year to beat the record. And I thought, once I can do that, I can I told Kevin this year, I only see him once 150 miles in. I was like, man, I just want to like beat the record. I want to come out here and do 200 plus mile days and beat the record, before everyone comes out here. Well, neither one of those things happened. But he was also kind of cryptic about, that. And he was like, man, I don't think anyone will ever, do this. And, I think there's been a lot more interest, and definitely the way things worked out this last year. I didn't think there'd be a race at all, but this guy, David Quinn, showed up out of the back, and, we had a lot of fun kind of going back and forth. But, he invited me already, like, out there to like be, do it again next year, and he's going to do his route himself that he hasn't had the chance to ride. But,
Tell me, I mean, I'm kind of familiar with that area of Texas, but how would you describe the route overall? I mean, is it mostly rails to trails? Is it mostly dirt? Is it a lot of road? Like, what is the terrain like that you're covering?
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess I can give you the cliff notes of
the cliff notes over 1,000 miles. I know it's a a long race. So what are the cliff notes?
Texas in 30 seconds. In East Texas, the terrain is dogs, and every house has a dog. So you can either make the peace with the dogs. I don't. I am a toy for the dogs, and but no, it's like kind of more piney woods, like out east, and then you kind of go up into Oklahoma, and there's some like real flat areas, and you come back down, and then it starts getting like real red. And I really appreciated that stuff this year, and kind of like canyony and cap rocky, and you end up going through like old Western Trail, like the Ozark Trail, and through Caprock Canyon. And
it goes through Caprock Canyon. Does it go on the trailway?
You ride right by it.
Okay.
And then you ride around the top of the state park.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's such a cool elevation change. In 2019, I rode all that in the dark and early in the morning, and didn't see the massive cliff I was riding up to and had to ride over. Where this year I got to like really enjoy it and see it way off in the distance and ride up to it. And like, really a lot of people don't make it past 410 miles to Henrietta, but beyond that is where it gets Western and where it really like, there's resupplies every 40 to 60 miles, the first 400 miles. But after that, it starts to get really more sparse and like you start to climb a little bit of elevation. And it's like, it's really special to me. And it really like, just being like a mostly Texas boy, it's just like really leaves an impact. And then also like the last day going into New Mexico, things change a lot. The dirt gets really white in places and like kind of rocky. And like, it's just like you literally traverse this landscape and like see all these little changes and like, but it's so slow, but you see it so fast that it's like, it's only like a week after it's over that you can kind of like unpack it.
Yeah, no, the pictures look cool. It's something I'd like to check out one day, for sure. Let's talk about, I want to hear about, so going into, you did it this last time in 2022, right? You just came off of it this past October.
Yeah.
What was your bike? Let's talk about your setup. What bike were you running? What tires? Did you run aero bars? What was your setup for this year?
Yeah. So all the trade secrets, 2017.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, 2017 Salsa Via. So pretty much the exact same setup I ran in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, Salsa steel frame, Salsa Via. Hope hubs with some stands, no tubes, cross wheels. 2019 I ran Panaracer Gravel King front and back. This year I had a tire issue and ended up running 43 mil Gravel King in the back and an ICR double cross, I think, up front.
Okay. What size?
42. And I kind of really like that tire. I did have some issues with it, but I think that was just me running low. I was kind of low, kind of dry on sealant. It was, some negligence on my part, but I don't know. I felt like I was like, should have fallen over in some sand a couple of times. And it does get a little sandy at times, but there's a lot of like 18-wheeler traffic building like, just agriculture traffic, like farmer traffic, and then building those tall wind turbines. So a lot of the sand stuff had been packed down this year. But when you're running kind of on the edge of the rut and, you're kind of kicking up the sand, it was really saving me and some other guys that I was super happy to see out there that I'd met once previously and were actually just out there per my recommendation. They're riding hardtail mountain bikes, and they were like, man, we don't know how you're riding that line, but I was just trying to keep the momentum going,
Yeah. What do you think about, were you happy with the tire selection, the tire size for that course?
Yeah. I mean, I did run into some mud issues. I think the bike, it doesn't have the frame clearance, for anything bigger. But, to more on your other question, I did run aero bars and I like little hot rod modification, welded a piece of an old handlebar in the middle for like a light mount, and then really kind of stiffened up that whole setup. And the aero bars are really like a whole front rack for me.
Yeah.
Where I keep a dry bag.
Yeah, I have aero bars. I've had questions on this on social media whenever I post my aero bars, because I have two bars that run in between. I didn't weld mine though. It's PVC, and I just like gouged out. I used my Dremel tool and like gouged it out so it fits to the aero bars. Then I drilled a couple holes and zip tied it in and painted them black. And I mean, I did my first 500-mile race. I ran that, and they're still on there. Like,
yeah,
it's been 5 years, and I'm about to use it again. I'm doing, I don't know if you know, I host my own event in East Texas. You were talking about the Piney Woods, and so I do the East Texas Showdown, 400 miles, and it's all in the Piney Woods. It's pretty cool. So I'm about to go do an ITT of that, but my ITT is going to be an individual time tour, because I'm just going to go tour it and enjoy it and suffer in my own way. But those aero bars are just great for comfort and a lot of mounting points, so you can have all your shit
Yeah.
just tied right there and convenient, which is awesome. What about what'd you do for like lighting? Were you running dynamo? Do you do the battery thing? What was your charging setup like?
Yeah, so I carried way more battery than I needed. I carried like a 30,000 milliamp battery this go around, and I carried it. I had made some mistake in my calculation. I thought it was going to be lighter than my other battery that was smaller, and it just wasn't. But I carried like a couple of really good lights I trusted, and I had a couple of helmet lights that were headlight tail light combos. And I essentially had four headlights and four tail lights. And trade secrets here, but operate a headlight in the early morning, and then you already have another headlight that's fully charged, and you can charge that other headlight during the day, in your frame bag while you're riding. And you really could almost get away with one bike light and a really good helmet light. That's how I kind of, just kept kind of a rotating, two bike headlights and two bike tail lights, and,
Yeah.
the helmet light situation.
Was your what was your sleep strategy? Did you carry a sleep kit? Were you using hotels along the way? Like, what was your strategy there?
Yeah. I primarily stayed in hotels, but I really like to keep the spirit of bike packing alive. And, I really wanted to do more of that, this year. And, I did, camp out the first night. It was like do 205 miles or camp out, because I'd already pushed, past, the hotel. And I was like, man, I'd rather wake up early, and found a good stack of bales of hays in a bend in the road, in between someone's property and, the road. And, this guy, David Quinn, who wasn't even there for the start, just grinded right on past me, and made it to the hotel. And I didn't think there was going to be a lot of people in this year. And I was like, man, I just need to get this thing done. Finishing is so important to me, and I'm not going to come out here and blow myself up. And I've been joking with all my buddies about these big numbers I'm going to put up, and listening to Bikes or Death and people doing 200 plus mile days. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be right there. And then, I had to be really real with myself, and, realize what I'm doing. And I had a really cool moment behind those bales of hay next to some spiders, where I had to come to peace with laying in a really vulnerable spot. Well, it wasn't super vulnerable, but the real fear, the childhood fear kind of comes in you, and you kind of just let go of everything. And I'm like, man, this is bike packing right here. And,
were you in a bivvy or? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. So,
No, that's fine.
just get going. So I brought a bivvy, and I had some jogging pants and a pocket puffer jacket. And 2019 I carried no sleeping bag pad, but I carried a cheaper Aggies Max sleeping bag, which I really highly recommend. That as a cost effective alternative. Some of this gear, it's better to not necessarily spend a ton on it, I think, and be able to enjoy it in the dirt a little bit. And for me, when I'm thinking about my rat, especially going forward, is if I have to sacrifice this item for this event, that's just what it is. But I've been lucky, and I've got a lot of use out of the bike packing gear is pretty tough, and really didn't change my setup a lot from 2019. But basically I run a frame bag and a seat bag and a really big top tube bag. And then I have my aero bars that carries, my immediate layers. And I carry a base layer and leg warmers and jogging pants and, of course, my jersey and cycling shorts, and then a puffer jacket. And, this time I saw a gentleman getting a gas station white t-shirt, outside a convenience store. I was like, man, I could be one of those guys today. And I did enjoy that, and kind of opened my mind a little bit of all this stuff, extra batteries and stuff I'm toting around when my spot was acting like it couldn't hold battery life, and I was buying batteries anyway.
What's the sleeping situation like? I mean, just on the rat in general, is there adequate sleeping, or is it mostly either stealth camping or credit card tour or hotels?
Yeah.
Like what are you dealing
Yeah.
with out there?
So first night, there's normally like a group kind of camp out in Mineral Wells, and like traditionally, the race was made as like you would stop at state parks along the way. But there is that option. But yeah, it is kind of stealth camping, credit card touring. But you're carrying all that stuff with you, and you're living off your bike, and I'm riding my bike. I would say I was prepared to like camp every night, and I really wanted to camp that last night too. This year, the first night was the only time I camped, but I wasn't gonna do it and not at least camp one night, for
Well, if you're
sure.
gonna carry all that shit, you might as well at least use it once.
Absolutely. And yeah, and I'd like to do more of that, and it's kind of funny, like doing 1,000 miles and camping and telling people about it. You're almost like isolating them from the idea, I feel like sometimes. So I try not to, make it sound a little more digestible. I don't want to shoo anyone off from the idea of like really having fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it really depends on what your priorities are. Like some people want that camping experience, but if you're just trying to go fast, if you're trying to go fast, that is your primary motivation.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot to be said about just checking into a hotel, possibly taking a shower, cleaning yourself off really well, getting a really good, comfortable, whatever it is. I mean, it might be 4 to 8 hours. Everybody's going to do it differently, but getting a comfortable night's sleep and then hitting the road versus tossing and turning in a ditch somewhere and worried that somebody's going to
Yeah.
kick you off their property or whatever it is. So like, you just have to
Yeah.
weigh like what you're trying to get out of the experience, right?
So I have something to speak on that. And this year I feel like I got to balance. So like, short story long, I missed the fastest known time by an hour this year.
Right.
And in retrospect, the guy who had the Dana Birch, he said he only got about 12 hours of sleep, the whole 6.5 days or 5.5 days. And where I was like getting 6 hours, 5 hours of sleep every night. And my policy is I like to end the day when the sun's going down and wake up really, really early and really try to put in my big time and big efficiency, pre-dawn and stuff like that. But I've learned, and I'm also a lot more mature of a rider as far as like what I can't see in front of me in unknown conditions and riding in the dark. But I really like to you take it 40 to 60 miles at a time on the rat, and you make it to the next store and you see what's next and how far and how much time. But for me, that's really worked for me, where I've seen other people kind of push through to the night, and they can't start as early, which seems to give them less options at the end of the next day. And nothing against doing that, because I really had hoped that I would do more pushing to past 200 miles every day, and I didn't, but I still came extremely close to this time. And I got stuck in some rain, and yeah, it's not an excuse, but it was like, okay, I'll just put this away as like we're just going to enjoy this. And got to meet up with some guys that I met randomly riding to Dallas, and I'm like, yeah, I'm out here training for this right across Texas, and these guys were out there only because of my recommendation this one time. And
Cool.
and just happened to stay at the same hotel as them. And then I just like was slowed my roll and was like, whatever. And so there was mud the next day, and they kind of rode right by me. It was a sunny day, but the mud had to dry out. They rode right by me on their hardtails. And, I just kind of hung out and walked a little bit, and it eventually dried out and got to a car wash. But and then it was the morning of the last day, and I was like, man, I got 130 miles to do in 9 hours. I'm like, man, if I'm at home, I can definitely do this, or like maybe do this. And seeing the guy that I thought was still chasing me, admit that he dropped out. It's just behind the scenes on this real story of what's going on, because I'm just riding my bike in 3 a.m. And he's like, man, I know you're gonna get the record or get really close to it. And on that last day, man, I like really push that 190 miles, and I kind of fell apart like the last 10 miles at the end, like where it's kind of just all service road. And it was like really cool for me to see how thin that line sometimes is, of like when we push ourselves, and like and also when I got into town, the Tucumcari, it's an old Route 66 town, and there's like neon signs and stuff, and I just blasted, with all this energy, and you get to this mural, that's the finish, and there's nobody there. And you just you do this big thing, that you've been telling everyone about, that's like, that you've worked up for, and like it's just kind of like life's another day tomorrow. And it's just really cool and special to meet some people this year out there, and share it with other riders, and like other events that I see, and other people mention, they're real like marketed and stuff, and I always end up like riding my bike from my house, and it's always an out and back. But when you get out there and you have camping gear and you're going one way, and you're going as far as you can go, you're not going back home. This is home right now. And like the way you live and what you carry is not at all what I would use day to day. And it's so crazy how your body like becomes into a different person, like a totally different routine. And then you finish this event, and as soon as you like sit back in your bedroom where I am now, you just fall right back in the same routine.
Yeah, we're very adaptable. I want you to tell me or touch on, you said 10 miles to the finish. I think you said you broke down. What do you mean by that? Physically, emotionally, mentally? Like,
yeah. I had a big
all the above.
Yeah. No, I mean, like definitely, broke down at the end, like emotionally for sure. But, I wanted to do that. But, I just like stopped to take my leg warmers off. I'm like, I had, my ride picking me up. I was like, but you don't have to be there when I finish. I was like, I'm doing this not for people to cheer me on, I'm doing it's, and I kind of want to celebrate it in my own way. And I'm very much a lone person, but when I see other people riding out there on course, it is the most special thing to me. And totally lost track of the question you just asked me.
Oh, what happened in the last 10 miles when you broke down?
Oh, yeah. I took my leg warmers off, and there's just a couple rolling hills on this old Route 66, just nothing out there. And it was just a grind, man. I would just had pushed so hard. And this year I'd never realized how cool you get to the Texas, New Mexico state line. The last 200 miles, there's like one stop. And well, I think it's the last 150 miles. There's only one stop, Texas, New Mexico line. And then, I was pushed so hard towards that. And then after that, there's like this really cool 13-mile section that's like not always usable. And the DOT stopped me, and they were like, you can't go this way. This is closed. There's mud up there. I'm like, this is the way. I'm like doing this for time. And they're like, where are you going? I'm like, to Tucumcari. They're like, you're going the wrong way. Like, these guys were serious. They're like, well, whatever, man. They're like, well, I guess we'll give you a ride through the mud. It had rained earlier in the week, and there was big ruts everywhere. But I was like, just staying off to the side of them. And, there's a lot of elevation there that last day climbing into New Mexico. And, well, for me anyway, it's not the Tour Divide, but, and I gave it all, man. I really did give it all. And, there was a lot of the ride that I rode at like my comfortable pace. And like, I'm really happy with that, and really happy with how it turned out, because if I did beat the record, I'd want to really crush it. And, and really be proud of what I did. And I basically did close to 190 miles a day, but one day was like 100. and I think one day was like 160. So that gave me time to like rest also. So I was able to like push way harder than I normally like should have, but like I would have been disappointed if it was just cool because I've just had so much good luck. Like not, my knees just felt like super tight, super stiff. And it just been a lot of fatigue, Achilles, I moved my cleats all the way back and lowered my saddle probably 2 inches over the course of the ride. And
Wow.
like was really sitting into the bike, and that made me feel like way more comfortable. But yeah, man, I was just like beat. And, like for me, it was getting to that wall and having a good cry and, like just in like soaking it in, because it's not a race when I'm out there. I think
Sure.
about it. I think about it all the time and I build it up. But when you're out there, you're being so genuine with yourself, and it's dumb. But for me, I wanted to take more pictures than anything this year. And I felt like I got to do that. So I'd probably be real fast if I could just stay on the bike, and stop goofing off. But I definitely tour in my own way, and just like, it's such a special, special route for me.
Yeah, you get to do it however you want to. That's the beauty of it. One thing I'm noting, and I'm sure you've thought about this as well, is like Dana. You said he slept 12 hours over the 5.5 days. You were sleeping what, 6 hours a night, so you
Yeah.
slept like 30ish plus hours. So I mean, like it says two things, and this is something I've thought of and talked about before. Is like, what's more efficient? Going a little bit slower, sleeping less, and like getting there faster possibly, or sleeping more, sleeping longer, and having a fresher body and giving yourself that reset. Because obviously, like if you were sleeping 30 hours versus 12, you were pushing a much faster pace, but probably part of that was due to the fact that you were actually resting and giving your body some rest. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the margin there is pretty thin, and you can play around with the speed versus sleep,
Yeah, I think a big thing is like finding that flow state for you. Like once you stop thinking about the computer and riding your bike, and you're just like a paper airplane, and you just like let it go, and you're kind of watching yourself, and you put the hard work in. So, and yeah, just watching it go by.
I like that paper airplane. That's a good analogy. One thing I wanted to ask you about was your food. You had mentioned in your email like pre-sorted meals that you could just add water to. I was curious if you could expand on like what you were doing there.
Yeah. So on the rat itself, I usually take like a ton of Cliff Bars and stuff like that, and electrolyte packets and stuff like that, but definitely for like entry level bike packing or small adventures. I've had like really good luck with like oatmeal with candied pecans, and like even just the oatmeal packet, just pouring hot water into, or just taking a couple like small pre-prepared meals. Like it becomes like real packable. That first time I tried to meet up with those rat guys, I carried like water for coffee. Also like there's always a lighter weight option to like enjoy a cup of coffee, and you can have like a special treat. It might not be, the cafe quality for some people, but you can get little Starbucks pre-mixed, cappuccino or whatever, not
Yeah.
my normal kind of drink, but when I'm out there roughing it, sometimes I like something a little extra sweet or something like that.
Yeah, I don't really drink Red Bull a whole lot, like never in my daily life. But if I'm on like a hard ride, I'll definitely like a Red Bull is. I don't drink soda at all. The only time I drink soda is whenever it's I'm on a bike trip, like either a long bike ride or a bike packing trip, and it's hot as fuck. There's something about cold Coca-Cola whenever I'm doing that just it satiates me in a way that nothing else
Yeah.
can. And I don't want to drink it at any other time. So I don't know. There's those things that you just kind of crave when you're out there. What was your final time? So I guess it was like 5 days, 13 hours, something like that.
Okay, so I guess Dana would have finished in 5 days, just under 11 hours, and I finished 5 days, just under 12 hours. Like it's,
Okay.
2 minutes, 1 minute till, it was like exactly an hour. And,
Wow.
I got no official time from Kevin. I don't really need one. I hope someone goes and disputes it or whatever. Kevin does his thing, and I'm really grateful for him. And he's a super unique guy, and how he runs his event is how he does it. But I definitely feel like there's steam, and there's a lot of cool gravel out in Texas that's like some of it's known about, some of it's not, and there's like just a lot of like real cool dirt out there that's surprisingly smooth and like running way less tire pressure than I would ever run around town. Out here with tons of weight on your bike.
Yeah.
But I think more people come out, there'll definitely be like more stuff going on. And I think this next year there'll be more of a touring party atmosphere, because Kevin himself is going to be taking on the rat, and 10 days is a lot more digestible for a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people. I think
Yeah,
if
if you
you
can get the
ride,
time off work.
yeah, absolutely. But 7 days isn't unrealistic. I think that's really good. And I finished with some hand numbness and stuff, but was 100%. And for me, my big thing after the rat in 2019 and last year is I went to this Volkswagen car show in Austin immediately after. So I get the ride back, and I immediately go to Top Notch Burgers and do this cruising, and it's my carrot on the end of my stick to get done with the race across Texas quick, because in my mind, this is my vacation. This is a lot of time that I'm taking off work to put myself in a place, so it's like I want to be able to, I'd save myself enough to be able to enjoy the driving down to Austin and the vintage Volkswagen, which is its own.
Yeah, its own adventure on its own. Its
Yeah.
own adventure on its own. Whatever. It's one of the barriers to entry, I feel like, for the rat. It's only one way, right? So like transportation, how do you get back? Most people drive. Most people don't ride to the start line. Most people are going to drive. So like, I feel like that's one of the barriers, is just
Yeah.
getting back to the start line. It sounds like you had a car or a friend pick you up. Is that what most people are doing to get back to the start line?
Yeah, I believe so. Or, people can link up together. I think there's like a car rental service, like 60 to 80 miles somewhere. But, some of us crazy guys dream about riding back to the Metroplex from Tucumcari. Uh, but yeah, that is a thing, and yeah, I don't know. I'm very fortunate. My mother is actually a huge cheerleader for me. I don't really ask her for anything, but she's super excited to root for me. And for the record, I beat her. I was able to ride my bike faster across Texas than she was able to drive. It's weird. You get dropped off and you see someone a week later, but it feels like you just saw them yesterday. You
Yeah.
know,
You
it's
go into a time warp.
absolutely.
So are you doing it again this year? So we're 20, what year is it? 2023? Are you doing it again this year? And if so, what are your goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing it this year. Not take as many pictures this year. And I'd kind of hoped I would have been done with it and I would have wiped it off my plate. And I really did spend a lot of time this year saying to myself, I'm never doing this again. uh, I'm getting too old for this. I'm a lot smarter and wiser. And why do I do this? But like the glory that you remember is literally like forever. And and I'm glad it's unfinished, because otherwise I'd have to do the divide or something, and really get out there, which that's getting their bucket list stuff. But yeah, I want to put down a really good time, but also like really be true to myself and finish. Like finishing is like number one to me, and I've attempted the full rat twice, and I've been lucky to finish it twice. And I see a lot of people that haven't been able to complete it, and they get discouraged, and it may hurt, the entry level, but it's always been stuck in my mind. And it is kind of like not really talked about or publicized at all, because it's kind of hard to coordinate, a race across Texas as one person, but I think it could be something that it would demand a lot more accessibility easily. And that would happen. That infrastructure would happen if more people were just entered,
Yeah. I know it does seem like it's still a grassroots event, man. It's still like, I know like 12 people show up on average. Like it's just not super well attended, but it's one that I follow along. I haven't had anyone on the podcast that's done it before, but I'll tell you what, man, once you cross this one off your list, I've got a couple easier routes in Texas. Love to have you out. I've got 400 miles in East Texas, and I'm about to release a 450-mile route in Central Texas. So my goal is to have like the Triple Crown Showdown. So my race is called the Showdown, and so we'll have 3 routes in Texas, and if you can win all 3, you'll be the Triple Crown winner.
Wow.
And so I got plans, man. So once you check the bucket list of the rat, I'd like to see you come and do some damage on one of my routes and see what you can do.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd love to have you out, man. Well, appreciate you coming on the show. It's been fun to chat with you. I think, you know what? Closing thought, after you do the rat this year, you need to go and do the rat on your tall bike. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That would be the crowning glory, the crowning achievement of bike packing right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've joked about that before, I would definitely want to stretch the wheelbase out a little bit. That one's just a little wheelie prone, but it's definitely possible. It's just a normal bike.
You got to build another one specifically for bike packing, like endurance bike packing. Yeah. Because
in Texas, we have lifted trucks everywhere. So there should be lifted bikes just the same.
Yeah, actually, there should be no lifted trucks. And actually, I like what you do at your shop. And personally, you slam everything. That's great. Yeah. Get them lower. Yeah, it's freaking stupid how. Anyway,
I wave at all the cars. Like I'm the one guy in the group where the diesel truck sounds like he's revving his engine, but he just has no exhaust and he's trying to putter by. I'm like, I'm a cheerleader for it all. The exhaust sounds get me motivated riding my bike.
I'm with you. I wave at everybody. I don't. Cyclists have a negative enough perception out there just in society. I don't want to add to that in any way. So like, I wave at trail runners, horse users, everybody in a car. If you try to, I had one guy like kick rocks at me and I flicked him off in his truck. He like spun out and I was like, well, you get the middle finger, but everybody else, I give them a howdy and a wave because life's too short and we're the losing battle there, right? Like we don't want to be in competition with cars. So I'll give you a wave and a smile.
Tall bikes are really bringing that back to our domain, I think. And, us riding in groups and stuff, because there are ways of there are ideas to transportation solutions that a lot of people don't like. And, the maintenance on cycling infrastructure is just so much cheaper than like to maintain a car. And they're out there and I try to be seen, I think that's a big deal. And there will be a shift, I feel like. And as we get more and more urbanized and things get closer together, there will be a necessary to travel just 1 mile places, hopefully, I feel like it's definitely only going to get better.
Yeah. From your lips to the bike god's ears. I hope you're right. And I hope that, yes, come on, bike gods, do your work. But I mean, that's what we're here doing. Bikes are death, man. Let's spread the word. And I appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast to chat. And I'm sure people will get out inspired. And I bet next time you ride the rat, there's going to be some people that heard this episode and they're going to be like, hey, man, I heard you on Bikes are Death. So
awesome.
We'll see what happens.
You, I appreciate it so much. It's been awesome.
Next time I'm in the area, I'll holler at you. I want to go for a ride in your VW and then we'll go for a bike ride.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's load the bikes up.
All right. Right on, dude.
All right. Later.
Peace out. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode with my friend Holden. I appreciate him coming on the podcast. Until next week, you know what to do. First thing, don't forget to support this podcast. If you would like to directly support the podcast, you can find out more over at patreon.com/bikesfordeath. Don't forget to check out my new bike sponsor, Panorama Cycles, at panoramacycles.com, and Athletic Greens if you want to get some health and wellness in this new year. Of course, you can find out all that information in the show notes. And until next week, you know what to do. Go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes.